رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, my brothers and sisters in Islam here and abroad, and those brothers and sisters who are with us online, watching the series that inshallah that I have about to commence. The subject series that I'm going to be discussing with all of you inshallah is a very important subject. It's extremely important subject, and I believe this is something that is not much being it's not something that the Ummah has really given its due respect. The title of the series that is called The Virtues and How to Improve Khushoo in Salah. This is a subject because in the Quran, in Surah Al-Mu'minun, Allah says, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ, which means successful indeed are the believers who are humble in their salah, in their prayer. So here the term humbleness refers to being khushoo. Khushoo in Arabic has several meanings, which inshallah we will discuss as we go. But in short, here it means humbleness. The ayah of the Quran in Surah Mu'minun talks about the humbleness of a believer when he stands before Allah to pray, that he has this khushoo in him. So the entire series I will be discussing on subjects like the first thing I'll be touching today will be basically I'll be giving an introduction into the importance of khushoo maybe. Once we finish the introduction of khushoo, then inshallah I will move on to the chapter 2 or chapter 3, which will be purpose of creation. Then we have the definition and virtues of salah. Third, we have the concealment of khushoo. Khushoo is something that is hidden. It's not something that is seen. The rulings on khushoo. What are the rulings according to the scholars in terms of khushoo? And then we have the meaning of developing khushoo in salah. That's where I'm going to teach all of you on how you can actually develop a sense of connection between oneself, the salah, the prayer, and ultimately your connection to Allah in your salah while you stand before Allah. And then we move on to knowing the advantages of khushoo in salah. What are the advantages of knowing why you have to have this khushoo when you pray? And then warding off distractions and things that adversely affect khushoo, keeping away from things, or sometimes even where you pray, the place that you pray may not be an appropriate place. Maybe it's a clean place, but it may not be an appropriate place for you to really concentrate and really focus on your prayer. So you need to avoid those places. Inshallah, I will be giving you in the series as we proceed, as we progress, I will be discussing on the places and the areas you should kind of avoid if you want to really develop the sense of khushoo when you stand in salah. And then we have when a person suffers a great deal of waswasa. One of the biggest enemies to khushoo and salah is shaitan whispering, shaitan coming and disturbing you by putting in a lot of thoughts that may disturb your khushoo from being reaching its level where it is at least your salah is rewarded. And then finally we will inshallah have a conclusion to the subject, the series on virtues and how to improve khushoos in salah. Now, why is it so important that we need to have the sense of khushoo when we stand in salah? Many people, of course, we all understand, there are a lot of khutbahs, there are a lot of workshops, there are a lot of series that scholars have spoken, on the virtues of salah. We all know the importance of salah. We all know as a Muslim that you have to pray a minimum a prayer of 5 times a day. You see, this part I think most of the Muslims in general are well aware of it. Even Muslims who don't pray 5 times a day, conveniently do know the importance of it. But where in general this ummah has actually forgotten to touch upon are mainly khushu. Now, is it that important? Is it not enough that a person just prays? He goes to the masjid to pray, or he prays at home or at his workplace, depending on his convenience. Is it really essential for a believer to have khushu while he prays? Now, these are questions, inshallah, we will address the importance and the scholarly opinion and the status of khushu. So that will, inshallah, develop khushu in salah. Personally, for me, of all the series that I have done, I've done several series, and the one that is very close to my heart while I was preparing the subject and while I was doing a presentation on this few years ago was khushu. Because while I was teaching members who attended this course, I personally developed the way to attain khushu in my salah. And for me personally, well, it has really enhanced or improved my level of focus and concentration in my prayer. When I was teaching others, I believe that I want to deliver the same benefit to this classroom, and in a bigger scope, the online audience, and in much bigger scope, this presentation is being recorded, so people can anytime visit back to develop that level of khushu that they need to really attain the sweetness of salah. Now, Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, we are told that Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, and it's a long hadith, but I'll give you a quote of what is important today. And my joy has been in prayer. Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that the joy of my eyes, my joy is actually salah. So Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam narrated the importance of salah by saying that is the sweetness that I get by standing before Allah. And we know from the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, and we know from various authentic narrations that Rasulullah ﷺ, any time that he was depressed, he was disappointed, or he had a tough time, he would always refer to salah. He will always stand up in salah. And if we look at the early revelation of the Quran, when Rasulullah ﷺ was being humiliated, when he was being degraded, when he was being frowned and belittled because of the message that he brought to the people, Quran ordered him, not retaliation, not to be abusive to the people who are being abusive to him, but Allah commanded him that, O Prophet, stand out a certain portion of the night and pray. So the more Rasulullah was being belittled, the more he was being humiliated, the more he was being rejected by the people for this message, Allah commanded him to do only one thing: stand up and worship your Lord. That's all. So this is the reason why Rasulullah said, Salah has been made something that is sweet to me, that's been pleasing to my eyes. And in order for you to taste the sweetness of Salah, the key ingredients is khushu. Without khushu, the salah is only a physical movement of bowing and doing prostration. That's it. It's a physical motion, which in the sight of Allah may not carry much of a weight. When it is done with khushu, the reward and the benefit of your salah is more immense. And how do you develop this khushu? We have a scholar, Sheikh Ibn Taymiyyah. He says that there are two ways to really develop khushu. One is to love praying your obligatory, fulfilling your obligatory duties. Once you have the taste to fulfill your obligations, then salah becomes sweet to you and khushu is developed. Second, he says that by warding off anything that distracts you towards, that may distract you while you're in salah. So the two principles that was actually laid down by Ibn Taymiyyah, may Allah be pleased with him, is that first, your love to pray. Your love to stand in before Allah or to fulfill any obligatory duties is one thing where you develop the sweetness of Salah. Second, he said to avoid anything that may distract, that may demean your Salah, that may belittle your Salah, where it keeps distracting you, whether it's waswasa of shaitan, or it's a waswasa of mankind, or it's just the environment that kind of distracts you from developing the Khushoo. Now, as for us, the important aspect of Salah is that the prayer is the only aspect of Islam that was granted to the Prophet ﷺ, not in dunya. It was not given in this earth. When Rasulullah ﷺ was given the gift of visiting Allah, it's an invitation where Allah invited him to visit him at his place. When he went for the Isra, there is where Rasulullah ﷺ was commanded to pray 5 times a day. First it was 50 times, it's a long hadith, and then it was reduced to 5 times, and then Allah commanded the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to also uphold the 5 times salah. So as we see, all the other rituals or all the other deeds in Islam was actually dictated on this earth. Your sadaqahs, your zakah, your pilgrimage to Hajj, your Hajj, your fasting is all prescribed in this earth. But Salah was actually given to the Prophet not in this earth but above the heavens, when he ascended to the heaven to visit Allah, to meet Allah. It's a personal invitation given to him. And this happened exactly 1.5 years before Rasulullah ﷺ migrated from Mecca to Medina. Before he migrated, Salah was made obligatory on every believing man and every believing woman. So it is so important. From the virtues of Salah, we understand the key ingredients of Salah is to really develop that humbleness. Because Khushoo has various meanings, which inshallah we will explore as we go. But to start with, it is where you humble yourself before Allah and you're focused in your Salah. Right? So this is the basic introduction to the series that I will be holding on the importance of Khushoo. Now, in the Quran, Allah tells us, وَمَا خَلَقْتَ الْجِنَّ وَمَا خَلَقْتَ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَانَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ, which means, and I, Allah, created not the jinns and mankind except that they should worship me. So here, the command of the ayah of the Quran is the very purpose of us being on this earth is to worship Allah. That's the first purpose. Anything else that follows is what is going to come has a bonus to our existence. So if Allah tells us that, and Allah has created not the jinns or mankind but to worship Allah, that means we are here only to worship Allah. That is our primary purpose. Now, apart from this, why is Khushoo so important? Like always say, any act or any ibadat, any deficiency in our ibadat is anytime associated with hellfire, or anytime it is associated with the Day of Judgment, signs of the Day of Judgment, then that act is to be taken very, very serious. We cannot take it light. When any traditions of the Prophet ﷺ is saying that this will happen towards the end of times, or if you do this, this is the consequences, then these kind of narrations are to be really, really taken very, very serious by those of us who want to practice this religion to our level best. Now, Prophet ﷺ, in an authentic narration recorded in Al-Tabrani, it says, the first act that the believers will be accountable for on the Day of Judgment will be the prayer. So the first act that we will be called upon will be our Salah, our prayer. If it is good, then the rest of his acts will be good. And if it is deficient, then the rest of his acts will be deficient. So Prophet ﷺ says the first accountability will begin with our prayer. And here prayer is not just merely a physical exercise or a ritual that we are programmed to just do without knowing why we are doing it. So for that, the key ingredients is a khushoo. Right? It was the first act of worship that was made obligatory by Allah. Salah was the first obligatory act that Allah has made it and put us as a responsibility upon every believing man and woman. It is the last thing to be taken away from the religion. These are towards the end of times. Towards the end of times, Prophet ﷺ gave us many prophecies saying how slowly this deen will vanish from people. Religion will go, and there'll come a time where people will say, yeah, we heard our forefathers say the shahada, something like la ilaha illallah. So that's how people will be so far away from the religion. So the last thing that will be taken away from this ummah before the end of times or end of this dunya is the salah. And then when it perishes, Islam will perish. So when the 5 times prayer amongst the Muslim is no longer a way of life, then Islam will also be removed from this earth. Its obligation was revealed directly to the Prophet ﷺ during his ascension to the heavens. That's what I said, right, earlier, that when Rasulullah ﷺ went on a visit to the heavens, that's when Allah commanded Prophet ﷺ and his followers to uphold the prayer. And it was made obligatory upon every sane and adult Muslim. So the moment a Muslim reaches his puberty, male or female, it becomes fard. It becomes compulsory upon them to perform the 5 times daily prayer. No excuses. No excuses whatsoever. So you have to pray, though there are a lot of provisions in Islam, it's given, but there is no provision in Islam for you to be neglectful of Salah. You can join Salah while travel, you can shorten it while travel, you can even pray up front in times of fear, in times of illness. There are a lot of provisions in the fiqh, but there is no provision in the Sharia where it says you don't have to pray today. You can even pray during warfare, but you have to pray. The point is you have to pray, right? So the definition of Salah, the Arabic word Salah originates from the word sila, which means connection. So the moment you're standing up in Salah, that's why I keep telling the word in English prayer is not a proper translation of the word Salah. Prayer is not Salah. Maybe prayer can easily be said dua, but not Salah. Salah is where an individual, male or female, they connect to Allah. They connect to Allah. So the word sila, which means to connect, is a connection. The Islamic definition of Salah is the name given to the formal prayer of Islam. The formal prayer that we uphold every single day is given as Salah. The Salah is one of the obligatory rites of the religion to be performed 5 times a day by every obedient adult Muslim. It is a connection between human and his or her creator Allah. Now you get the point. You see, when Rasulullah would have difficult time, he would always move towards Salah. And as Muslims, we should also develop this practice that may Allah make it easy for us, that anytime you're faced with issues in life, that you go back to your Salah. Because Salah is where it refreshes you back. Because it is natural for human beings to feel down at times, and at times your spirit is very high. Right? As Rasulullah said, the sign of Iman is that it fluctuates. It's a sign of Iman that one day your Iman is really high, another day maybe it is very low. So whatever happens, you need to go back to Salah. The moment you do sujood before Allah and cry out before Allah of your problems and your difficulties, you will feel the relief. Relief will come. Alright, so this is the definition of Salah. And the virtue of Salah here is قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. Certainly will the believers have succeeded. Here Allah guarantees in Surah Mu'minun, Ayah 1 and Ayah 2, that certainly will the believers have succeeded. So Allah is giving a certainty here that the believers will succeed. But it comes with a condition in the second verse, which says, الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. They who are during their prayer humbly submit. Now this is what we are going to learn. The entire series is nothing but a detailed explanation of these two verses of the Quran. This is a series on Khushoo, how to develop this Khushoo, and the virtues of it. Now, khashi'un means those with fear and with tranquility. You see, when you have fear, you lose tranquility. It's natural. Fear is natural. To overcome fear is what you need to train yourself. That's unnatural. But here, khashi'un means to have fear. At the same time, you are having this fear with complete tranquility. There is sakina. Salah becomes a delight and a joy for eyes. The moment you develop khushu, humbleness and focus and concentration in your salah, inshallah your salah will become easy for you. One of the advantages of khushu is that it becomes easy for you to do your salah. Why we feel salah is a burden sometimes? It's because we are not enjoyed the sweetness of it. Because we are not enjoyed the sweetness of it, we consider that a liability, is a burden upon us. So that's why khushu is the main ingredients to developing a very strong connection between us and our Creator Almighty. And the virtues of Salah is that the covenant between us and them is prayer. The difference between us and those who disbelieve in Allah is that of Salah. So if anyone abandons it, he or she has become a disbeliever. That's it. So for a Muslim to be considered a Muslim in the records of Allah, not in our census form, not in our passports, but the records that Allah keeps, for us to be entitled as a believer, we have to fulfill our basic requirement of 5 times a day prayer. If not, then Prophet ﷺ says he becomes a disbeliever. So much so that the scholars have said that any Muslim men or women who have not prayed and passes away, he or she must not be buried in a Muslim cemetery. He must be buried away where there is an abandoned barren land where nothing lives. So any Muslim, male or female, who have not prayed and they pass away, and you know the person has never prayed, is not known for his prayer, then he or she must not be buried amongst the believers who have regularly prayed. That is how serious the ulamas of this ummah have classified the importance of salah. And some of the scholars have said very clearly, the one who doesn't pray must be given capital punishment. Like Imam Abu Hanifa holds that view. And all the other scholars have said strictly no prayer, you are a kafir. That's it. You are a disbeliever already. They're very strong. If you look at the classical work of great scholars, you will be very frightened. Today, maybe scholars are taking a more lenient steps, towards a person who doesn't pray. But if you look at our classical scholars, they are very, very strict as far as 5 times a day Salah is concerned. No ifs and buts. Because the Hadith is very serious. The moment a scholar can conclude, scholars can come with a consensus that a Muslim cannot be buried in a Muslim cemetery because he didn't pray, he or she they have not known for prayer, that is already serious. Very serious. That's why we as Muslims need to understand why we need to pray. And while we pray, why we need to have this concentration and why this humbleness for. Because if you don't know, then you cannot blame anyone but yourself when you stand before Allah. I told you the ayah of the Quran is very clear. We have not created jinn kind and the mankind except to worship Allah. That's why I told you every time I feel lazy to wake up for Fajar, this ayah comes to my mind, I just get up and go. Because I know my purpose. I don't want to sleep and then let sun rise and then it's full of regrets. You see, so I'd rather go early to bed, get up, or set few alarms, go pray and come back, no harm. Allah is not demanding a whole lot of time, five times a day is, if you really strictly calculated, maybe half an hour of your day. Just half an hour of your day. And the way we pray, the speed of light we pray, even half an hour is too much already. You see? And then another hadith where Rasulullah said, what lies between a man and disbelief is the abandonment of prayer. If you abandon your prayer, that is what stands in between you and being a believer. All right? And then we'll finish with this, inshallah, because, this is a series. And I want to make it in a way that, it really registers in our mind, so we take it home. And I don't want to rush in and conclude it. Now, another narration of the Prophet ﷺ, he said that if there was a river at the door of any one of you, and he took a bath in it 5 times a day, would you notice any dirt on him? They said, the Sahaba said, not a trace of dirt would be left. So the Sahaba said, no, Rasulullah, if somebody going to take a shower in a running river 5 times a day, then we are not going to see any dirt on him. Then Prophet ﷺ added, that is the example of the 5 times prayer with which Allah blots out evil deeds. That's how Allah cleanses the believer from evil deeds. So the way Allah deals with our deeds is that by giving us the opportunity to stand before Allah. Now, before I conclude for today's introduction, and next series, inshallah, we will move into the definition of Khushoo and what comes afterward. Now, if you apply this to the way Salah is being conducted today in the masjid, in the masajids, it's especially in Ramadan. Especially in Ramadan. It becomes, we all have fancy mosque today. Mosques are very beautiful compared to what it was in the time of Rasulullah. And mosques are very comfortable with beautiful lightings, chandeliers, air conditions. But most of the masjid, there is no Khushoo. I personally, who want to enjoy my Salah, and I enjoy a beautiful recitation. When an Imam reads beautifully, I'm really connected. I'm just connected. And especially in Ramadan, of course, other time also I have difficult time. Because most of the people that I have come across who are leading the Salah, they don't really read the Quran with the tajweed that they're supposed to. So they go off balance. And the other thing is they read so fast that you can't really focus. So especially for Ramadan, I'm really hunting around to go into any masajid or madrasa or markas where I personally want to, even if I pray the 2 rakah, standing before my Creator on the month of forgiveness, on the month of the Quran, I want the 2 rakah to at least be accepted by Allah. I don't want to have enormous deeds in my record. At least those few that I do, I want to do it properly. Right? That's all. So if you look at all the hadiths relating to Salah and Khushoo, you realize this is not the way. I'm sure any lay person can know that this is not the way Rasulullah must have led Salah. This is not the way the Sahabas or the Sahabiya at the time of Rasulullah would have led Salah. You know, there is a story of Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah. If you look at one of the narration, says that he, after Isha Salah, he sat in the masjid. In the ayah of Zalzala, the last 2 ayahs, caught him so, it really captured him. In Zalzala, in the last 2 ayahs, Allah says that anyone does an atom of good will reap the good. Anyone who does an atom of evil will see the evil on the Day of Judgment. This ayah, he kept on repeating to himself and connecting himself to this ayah in the masjid after Isha Salah. And he was contemplating over it again and again and again and again until the muaddin comes and says, Imam, I'm going to give adhan. Sorry, it just Imam, just the muaddin comes, the caretaker of the mosque comes and looks at Imam Abu Hanifa sitting there and contemplating over these ayahs. He says, Ya Imam. And then Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah looks at him and he says, oh, is it time for you to close the masjid? Yeah, because it's after Isha. He said, no, Imam. I'm going to give adhan for Qiyamul Layl now. I'm going to give adhan for Tahajud. That's when Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah realized he has been contemplating and nobody disturbed him. Muaddin saw him, so just let him. You see, this is how you have to connect to the Quran. Quran is not a book we just read for the sake of reading. It's Allah's communicating to us. It's also one way of connecting to Allah. So if Imam Abu Hanifa can sit after Isha until Qiyamul Layl, the Mu'adhin came to give adhan for Qiyamul Layl to wake people up to pray. And he didn't realize the time just flew. So this is how our Salah is supposed to be when we stand. Even if it is 2 rakah that you're going to pray, sunnah, nafil, whatever. Apart from the obligatory one. Try to connect. Inshallah, in this series, I will take time. I will take you slowly because it's more like a workshop, not a lecture. I'm going to show you how it is done and how this series actually helped me. And the purpose of me developing this entire series is because my teacher taught me how I should develop my Khushoo in Salah. Right? So when I learned practically from my teacher, then I thought it is time for me to teach the same to every one of the people that I come across. So inshallah, with this I will conclude. May Allah bring blessings to this small gathering here. And may Allah just make us of those people who humble ourselves before Allah in Salah. And raise us among those who have the Khushoo in Salah in the past. And may we be raised among the righteous, inshallah. So with this I conclude, and if you have any questions pertaining to what I've so far discussed in this long series of Khushoo, please put it forth.
What does Khushoo mean?
Khushoo, inshallah, I will give you what it means. The definition to Khushoo is calmness, it's tranquility, it's dignity and humility. These are the 4 definitions given by scholars, and also in Arabic language, this is what it means. So Khushoo means calmness. So when you pray, you are in complete calmness. You're not rushing your Salah for anything. That's why there is a quote, right? Whoever you're rushing the Salah for, remember Allah is in control of their affairs. So you don't need to rush for anybody. If you feel that there is a need to rush, don't need to rush, take time, finish the work, and then start your Salah. That's why in Islam, if you have an urge, need for call for nature, or if you have a need to eat or drink, Islam tells, take care of that first. before you stand up in Salah, because if you have an urge for call of nature or hunger or thirst and you still proceed with your Salah, then you're going to lose your calmness. Second is tranquility. So when you stand before Allah, you're in complete peace of mind. No worries. So that's why it's always good for Muslims to avoid unnecessary worries. Don't think too much. Whatever is happening in your affairs is actually preordained. It's already there. It's already done. That's why the scholars tell us it is a minor shirk for any believer to say, I wish I could have done that, so I would not end up here. You're not supposed to say that. It's a minor shirk. That means you are dictating that, you could have done better. No, what is past is past. Let it go. But rectify the future. And the dignity. When you stand before Allah, be with full of dignity. You are a believer. No need for you to feel shy, ashamed, nothing. You are standing before the one who created you from nothing. كَيْفَ تَكْفُرُونَ بِاللَّهِ أَمْوَاتًا. Allah created you from nothing. You were nothing and Allah gave you life. Right? And then humility. You have to be humble. You have to know who you are standing. Rasulullah said, Ihsan is standing before Allah. Even you don't see Him, but He watches you. This is the level of Iman. So when you pray, that's why Ali radiallahu anhu once said that when anyone speaks about hellfire, it does not move me one bit. Anybody talks about heaven, it doesn't move me one bit. Because I live as if hellfire is here and heaven is here. So Ali radiallahu anhu said that I live as if these two things are very close to me. So it doesn't move him at all to say anything about heaven and hell, because these people, the Sahabas, have trained themselves in such a way that this is how they carry their life. They saw this is hell, this is heaven. It's so close to each other. It's close to us. So there's no need for them to feel overjoyed when heaven is spoken, or to feel depressed or bad when issues on hellfire is being discussed. Well, this is the definition. Inshallah, we will broaden the understanding in our next series. Is there anything else? Yes, brother.
Is it unreasonable to expect the same level of Khushoo in every single of our Salah?
No, brother. It is not possible. Humanly, it is not possible to have the same level of Khushoo. It's not possible. Though Khushoo is a key ingredient, inshallah we will see in our coming series the scholarly view. Is it farad? Is it mustahab? Is it sunnah? What is it? What is Khushoo? What is a category? Inshallah we will discuss that. But to have 100% Khushoo every single time you pray is humanly not possible. Even for us to have 10% of Khushoo in our Salah, it is something we need to ask Allah to give us. It's not something that is given, that you pray and then you have to have Khushoo. No. That's why the rewarding system, which also we will discuss in the series later, the rewarding system for your Salah is based on your amount of Khushoo. If your Khushoo is 10%, inshallah you will be rewarded 10%. If your Khushoo is 50%, then your reward is 50%. But the reward is there. And your Salah is still valid. Even you don't have any Khushoo, even your Khushoo is very little, still inshallah your Salah will be valid in the sight of Allah. But the rewarding system varies depending on how much of calmness, tranquility, humility that you show in your prayer. Right? So inshallah all that we will discuss as we proceed, but it is humanly not possible for anyone to have 100% Khushoo each and every time. But as humans, we should always strive for the better. Right? There are times you could be very tired, so you could just pray a very quick prayer and go to sleep. Right? So these are things that's humanly what affects us. Health, lack of sleep, stress, workload, right? A lot of issues that destroys our concentration. So all those things Allah understands. But what is important is that don't ever stop striving. That's what Islam keeps telling us. What Islam tells us, keep on moving, keep on moving. Don't need to stop. No need to think twice. Because all this thinking twice is a waswasa already. Just because your maghrib was not with full khushu, don't give up your isha. Don't do that. It's okay. Allah is forbearing. Allah is very kind. Allah is Rahim. Allah is Kareem. Don't worry, relax. Don't let shaitan tell you otherwise. Right? Inshallah. Yes, brother.
Talking about people who miss prayers should be buried abandonedly. So what if they miss prayer and come for Jummah? Is it still?
No, you see, coming for Jum'ah, coming for Eid is all will not be valid for a believer unless the fundamental is fulfilled. Do you follow? A Muslim brother can come for Jum'ah, is a once a week Muslim. Or once a year Muslim is the one who comes for a Eid. But unfortunately, Allah is not in need of your salah, first and foremost. We are not doing any favor to Allah by praying to Allah. He is not in need of our prayer at all. Nothing of Allah's greatness is going to diminish because we didn't do sujood to Allah. It's us who need Him. We don't need, He doesn't need us at all. We are so insignificant amongst the creations of Allah. If you look at Allah's creation, what are we? Nothing. We are literally nothing. We become something when we become Ibadur Rahman. We become something only when we become Ibadur Rahman, when we become the servants of Allah, the Abd of Allah. Otherwise, we are nothing. We are literally nothing compared to what Allah, the glorious creation that He has created. For example, I'll give you a very simple example. When I came across this hadith where Prophet ﷺ said that when the rooster makes a sound during Fajar, then make dua to Allah that he has witnessed the angel. When a rooster makes the sound in the morning, if you go to villages, they make sound. And this is actually an alarm system the old times people used to keep it as. But in the hadith, Rasulullah said, anytime you hear a rooster calling out early morning, that means he has seen an angel come down. So Rasulullah said, raise your hands and make dua to Allah, because that's the time Allah will accept your dua. And then the hadith continues. Rasulullah said, but you hear the barking of a donkey, then ask Allah protection, because he has witnessed a shaitan. So donkey has seen shaitan, that's why he's making this noise, he's barking now, out of fear. Now, a simple analogy to this hadith is my own analogy, it's not a scholarly thing, is that if a rooster can see an angel with a small tiny eye, but Allah has blinded us from seeing the angel. So are we superior right now compared to the rooster? I think the rooster is far more superior, because he can see the unseen, and same as the donkey. You see, if we really analyze each creation, Allah has blessed each creation with something unique.
Apart from human, I think almost
Yes,
all the animals can see
see certain things that we don't see.
Exactly.
So in reality, we are nothing unless you are Ibadur Rahman. Like, they say nature is not in need of us, but we need the nature to survive on this earth. Sun don't need us. We need the sun to exist on this earth. Same thing. Allah is not in need of us even one bit, but we are in need of Him. So that's why when you keep these analyses right in your head, then inshallah your salah will become the sweetness of your heart. Then you know how your salah is, your khushoo is really taking you towards the connection between us and Allah. Anything else, brothers? Yes, brother.
Yeah, I want to ask, at times we've experienced a salah where it's so much so that we would be in tranquility,
Yes.
in the state of sakina after we finish salah.
Mm.
does that mean we have attained Khushoo in our Salah?
Uh,
Are there any benchmark or any criteria or signs that we had Khushoo in our Salah?
Okay. One of the method, inshallah, this I will elaborate more when I come to developing a khushu. Now, one of the method of developing a khushu is to know reciting the Quran properly. Do you follow? The moment,
Hear it.
yeah,
When
if,
we recite, then we
yes, you should recite in a way that at least, if you're alone, of course, you can recite as loud as you want. But if you're amongst the congregation, suppose in the masjid you're doing a sunnah, or you're doing a nafil, or your witr, make sure that you don't cause disturbance to the fellow worshippers. So as long as you're reciting in a way that you can hear, good enough. So one of the method to really develop a high level of khushu is to recite the Quran as it was ordained to be recited, with proper tajweed, with proper pronunciation of the Arabic words, with proper maharij. Not as we understand or how it's read way in a way that it doesn't sound Arabic anymore. This is one method. Now, how do we know that you have actually had that khushu? Now, when you start praying, sometimes you don't want to stop praying. You want to continue. You want to keep reading surahs after surahs after surahs, unless you said, okay, now I'm tired now. Now, how do you know your ibadat is being accepted? Is that you want to do it more. The moment the scholars tell us, how do you know that Allah has accepted from you your ibadat? How do you know?
Give you another ibadah.
Yes. So what happens? Your love for the ibadah increases. You start from one and then you improve and go to the second. For example, if you are a person who is fasting only for Ramadan, if Allah is accepted from you, then inshallah Allah will facilitate you to fast Mondays and Thursdays. If not Mondays and Thursdays, at least 3 times, the white moon, 3 times in a month. You see? So your ibadat will start to increase gradually. That means Allah is accepting your work, your efforts. That's how you know. The scholars tell us that's how you know. You want to know whether Allah has accepted you? Very simple. You see your ibadat. If you see it's growing day by day, you started with basic 5 times a day, now you started to pray all the 12 sunnah. Then over that you want to also pray your nafil. Nafil is something you can do anytime. And you're also making sure that you're praying the other prayers. As soon as you walk into the masjid, you have tahiyatul masjid, you don't miss that. And then you have tahiyatul wudu. As soon as you make wudu, you make 2 raka salah. There are so many salah. Like for example, when you entered into your house, you can pray 2 raka. Duha. So there are so many ways. If you see your ibadat is only increasing on a day-to-day basis, then you know Allah has accepted your work. This is a sign. So this is when you'll feel happy, okay. You're good. So even you will look at the life of all the great ulama, all the great scholars, you look at all the life of the sahabas, you can see how gradually their ibadat also started to increase. Like I said, Islam is a process. You start from something and you develop and you come somewhere. It's not something you just turn a book and read it and then you think you know it. Islam is something you learn to say a salah, you turn back and do it. So it should increase. At least, my humble request, it's a reminder for myself also, apart from the 5 times a day salah, it's good we should also try to wake up at least 20 minutes before Fajar. Do 2 raka of your qiyam. At least 2 raka with a small surah. First start with it. You can't do that, at least do your tahajjud right after witr or before witr, before you go to bed. Start off that way and then do your witr, go to sleep. And then slowly you try to wake up in between. At least 20 minutes before Fajr. Make that wudu. Stand before Allah when the whole city is sleeping. You're standing and the angels are witnessing. And remember, the Hadith says Allah descends to the lower heavens, looking for the one who may ask him. It's very important. That's why Imam Shafi Said the dua made during Tahajud is an arrow that never misses its target. Right? It's a beautiful quote. And even Yasir Arkady, I like his quote on this. Yasir Arkady, he said that,
Dr. Yasir.
yeah, he said that if you want something from Allah, if you want Allah to grant it to you, and if you don't wake up for tahajjud, that means you really don't want it. True, right? If you want an increment in your payroll, you want a better position, what do? You perform. You prove to your organization that you are someone who's going to add value. So it shows, okay, the boss looks at you and says, okay, this guy's hardworking. You should not let him go. You see? So same thing. So if you have needs, we all have needs, we have to ask Allah. So every time you have these needs, we don't wake up for Qiyam. I tell you, I don't know if we have prayed Qiyam, but one of my favorite times to pray Qiyam is either half an hour before Fajar, is the best, or at least do it before you go to sleep. When you go into sujood and cry out to Allah, ask dua while you're in sujood, ask Him, and then you go back to bed, you can feel all your burdens are relieved. You're no more having this anymore. You're cool. And you wake up the next day, you're very comfortable. Because now you already left your worries to Allah, so leave it. That's all you can do. Whatever good comes out of it, let it come. Do you follow? So this is very important, and it's important if you're a student of Quran, you're memorizing the Quran. I think Qiyamul Layl is one of the best way to improve your recitation and to really connect yourself to the Quran. Get up and pray. Wallahi, you will see a world of difference in your life. You will see the world don't mean anything to you anymore. The worries of the world is nothing actually. If you really put Allah in front of you, I think all these worries are just something that's going to pass over time. So inshallah, I hope Allah facilitates us to do that. And then if you have companions at home, wives or children who can really give you that support, I think your home is heaven. Because you won't be praying to Allah in Jannah, right? There's no Salah in Jannah. So even if you want to pray, you can't pray. It's not part of the behavior or ritual in Jannah. Jannah, you don't ask Allah, Allah asks you what you want. Only here you ask Allah, yeah, give me Allah, give me this, give me that. Right? So let us just enjoy our Salah while we are still walking this earth. Because very soon the earth is going to consume us. So once you consume, you want to even come back for a few moments to pray 2 Raka, is not going to work. So inshallah. Anything else? That's all. Let me conclude. We have Isha to perform. الواحدة والحمد لله رب العالمين.